The day my good deed destroyed everything. I've always believed karma would have my back. Do good, and good comes to you, that was my mantra. Until 3 weeks ago, when trying to be a decent human being completely destroyed my life. It started on a Tuesday. Not one of those dramatic stormy Tuesdays you'd expect in a story like this. Just a regular, sunny California morning with me running late for work, as usual. Shit, I muttered, nearly spilling my coffee as I juggled my laptop bag, car keys, and phone. My boss had explicitly said another late arrival would mean a formal warning. 3 warnings and I'd be unemployed. The economy being what it was in 2025, that wasn't a risk I could afford to take. That's when I heard a faint whimpering coming from the dumpster behind my apartment complex. I should have ignored it. I should have just gotten into my car and driven away. But I didn't. The whimpering grew louder as I approached. Moving aside some garbage bags, I found a small cardboard box. Inside was a puppy, couldn't have been more than a few weeks old. Tan fur, floppy ears, and the most pathetic brown eyes I'd ever seen. It was clearly malnourished, ribs showing through its coat. "Hey there, little guy," I whispered, gently lifting the box. "Who would do this to you?" The puppy looked up at me like I was its savior. How could I just leave it there? I quickly checked the time, 8:40 a.m. My meeting started at 9 o'clock. There was no way I could drop the puppy somewhere and still make it on time. But I also couldn't just leave it to die in a dumpster. So I did what any decent human would do. I took the puppy with me. Little did I know that this single decision would set off a chain reaction that would cost me my job, my apartment, my girlfriend, and nearly my life. "What the actual fuck?" Mike, my boss, Derek, hissed across his immaculate desk. The puppy was hidden in my messenger bag, occasionally making small noises that I tried to cover with fake coughs. "I'm sorry. Traffic was insane on the 405, I lied, feeling sweat beading on my forehead. Derek's eyes narrowed. "That's what you said last time. And the time before that." I know. It won't." The puppy chose that moment to let out a high-pitched yelp. Derek froze. "What was that?" "What was what?" I asked, trying to sound confused while simultaneously nudging my bag with my foot. Another yelp, louder this time. "Is that a dog?" Derek's face was turning that specific shade of red that meant someone was about to get fired. "I can explain," I started, but it was too late. The puppy had managed to wiggle its head out of my bag, looking around curiously at its new surroundings. Derek stood up so quickly his chair rolled back and hit the wall. "Are you fucking kidding me? You brought a dog to our client meeting?" "I found him abandoned in a dumpster. I couldn't just leave him there." "So you brought it here? To a meeting with Reynolds Corp? Our biggest potential client this quarter?" I opened my mouth to respond, but was interrupted when the conference room door opened and Melissa from reception poked her head in. "The Reynolds team is here," she announced, then noticed the puppy. "Oh my God, is that a puppy? So cute." Derek looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. "Mike, get rid of that thing now. And then get your ass to the conference room." "But where am I supposed to?" "I don't care. Figure it out." He stormed out, fake smile plastered on his face as he greeted the Reynolds executives in the hallway. I sat there, puppy in hand, completely screwed. Turns out, puppies aren't great at staying quiet or still during important business meetings. Especially ones that haven't been fed properly. After unsuccessfully trying to find someone to watch him, and naming him Max in the process, I ended up sneaking him into the conference room, hidden in my bag with some treats I'd bought from a vending machine. Everything was going fine for about 10 minutes. Derek was in the middle of his presentation about our marketing strategy when Max started whimpering again. "Is that crying?" asked Janet Reynolds, the CEO's wife and head of operations. "Just the building's pipes," Derek said smoothly. "Old building, you know how it is." I nodded enthusiastically, while simultaneously trying to quiet Max with more treats. This worked briefly, until it didn't. In my panic, I'd overfed him. What happened next played out in horrifying slow motion. Max started making gagging noises. I tried to excuse myself, but it was too late. He projectile vomited, somehow managing to clear my bag entirely, all over the conference table, the presentation materials, and Janet Reynolds' $3,000 Prada handbag. The room exploded into chaos. Janet screamed. The CEO jumped back so violently he knocked over the water pitcher. Derek looked like he wanted to murder me with his bare hands. "I'll clean it up," I said desperately, grabbing napkins and only managing to spread the mess further. Meeting adjourned, the CEO announced coldly. "Derek, I think we need to reconsider whether your team is the right fit for Reynolds Corporation." After they left, Derek didn't yell. That would have been better. Instead, he just looked at me with pure disappointment and said, "Clean out your desk. Security will escort you out." Max, meanwhile, seemed quite pleased with himself. Getting fired was just the beginning of my problems. On the drive home, with Max now sleeping peacefully on my passenger seat like he hadn't just destroyed my career, I called my girlfriend, Olivia. "Liv, you won't believe what happened," I said when she picked up. "Actually, I need to talk to you about something," she cut in, her voice tense. The apartment complex called. They said someone reported a dog in our unit. My stomach dropped. About that. "Mike, you know our lease specifically prohibits pets. We could get evicted. I found him in a dumpster this morning. I couldn't just leave him there to die." "So you risked our apartment? The one we spent months trying to find in this impossible housing market?" "I was going to figure something out," I said weakly. "Well, figure it out fast. The property manager is doing an inspection tomorrow morning." I glanced at Max, who chose that moment to wake up and lick my hand adorably. "Maybe if they meet him, they'll make an exception?" Olivia sighed. "This isn't about how cute he is, Mike. It's about the rules we agreed to when we signed the lease. Rules that keep our rents somewhat manageable in this economy." I know. "I'll find him a home by tonight," I promised, although I had no idea how I was going to make that happen. I spent the rest of the day frantically calling shelters, all of which were full. I posted on neighborhood apps and social media. No takers. Everyone loved the idea of rescuing a dumpster puppy until they actually had to commit to it. That evening, I sat on our couch with Max sleeping in my lap, scrolling through my phone and trying to figure out what to do next. That's when I saw the news alert: local animal shelter under investigation after deaths of multiple dogs. Curious, I clicked on the article. Happy Tales Animal Shelter, where I'd been considering taking Max as a last resort, was being investigated after several dogs died from what appeared to be neglect and improper care. "Jesus," I muttered. The article included a blurry photo taken by a former employee showing dogs in horrible conditions. And that's when I saw it. In the background of the image, barely visible but unmistakable, a man I recognized. Rick Stevens, my landlord's brother and the property manager scheduled to inspect our apartment tomorrow. I zoomed in to make sure. No doubt about it, Rick Stevens, who was about to decide our housing fate, was somehow connected to a shelter being investigated for animal cruelty. Maybe this was leverage I could use? If I confronted him with this information, perhaps he'd let us keep Max? Looking back, this was the moment I should have stopped. This was where the road forked, and I chose the path that led straight to disaster. But I didn't see it then. All I saw was a way to save Max and our apartment. "You want to keep the dog, even though your lease clearly states no pets?" Rick Stevens looked at me with thinly veiled contempt the next morning. "Yes, I was hoping we could work something out," I said, trying to sound confident while Max squirmed in my arms. Rick shook his head. "Not possible. Rules are rules." "That's interesting coming from someone who works at Happy Tales Animal Shelter," I said, dropping my bomb. The change in his demeanor was immediate. His face hardened. "What are you talking about?" I showed him the article on my phone, zoomed in on his face in the background. "That is you, isn't it? At the shelter that's being investigated for animal deaths?" His eyes darted around, calculating. What exactly are you implying? I'm not implying anything, I said, feeling a surge of confidence. I'm just saying it would be a shame if people found out about your connection to Happy Tales. Especially your brother, the landlord. Looking back, I realize how this sounded. But in my mind, I wasn't blackmailing him, I was negotiating. Leveraging information to save an innocent puppy. Rick's voice dropped to a whisper. You have no idea what you're getting involved in. All I want is to keep Max. That's it. After a long pause, he nodded stiffly. Fine. Keep the dog. I'll amend your lease. But this conversation never happened. I felt victorious as he left. I'd saved Max. I could tell Olivia everything was okay. But as I closed the door behind Rick, I couldn't shake the feeling that his surrender had come too easily. That night, Olivia was less than impressed with my solution. You blackmailed our property manager, she hissed after I explained what happened. Are you insane? I didn't blackmail him, I insisted. I just pointed out a conflict of interest. By threatening to expose him? That's literally blackmail, Mike. Max, oblivious to the tension, was happily chewing on a new toy I'd bought him. Look, it worked out, I said. We get to keep Max, and... My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk about Happy Tales. Meet me at Riverside Park. 10 p.m. tonight. Come alone. I showed Olivia the text. Don't go, she said immediately. This screams trap. But what if it's someone who needs help? What if there are more animals being mistreated? Olivia threw up her hands. You lost your job today because of trying to help. Isn't that enough? This is different, I insisted. This could be serious. Actual animal abuse. And what exactly are you going to do about it? You're not a cop. You're not animal control. You're just a guy who got fired for bringing a puppy to work. Her words stung, but I'd already made up my mind. I'll be careful. I promise. Riverside Park at night was exactly as ominous as you'd expect. Dark paths, rustling bushes, the occasional distant shout or laugh that made me jump. I clutched my phone, flashlight on, cursing myself for coming. Olivia was right. This was stupid. Just as I was about to leave, a figure emerged from the shadows. Mike? The voice was female, uncertain. I turned, raising my phone to see better. The woman was maybe mid-30s, nervously glancing around. Yes? I'm Sarah. I worked at Happy Tales. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Rick said you knew about what's happening there. I know it's being investigated, I said cautiously. Sarah laughed bitterly. The investigation is a joke. They're going to cover it all up. Cover what up exactly? She looked around again, paranoid. Happy Tales isn't just a shelter. It's a front. They take in animals, sure. The cute ones, the adoptable ones, they're fine. But the others? The others what? They sell them. To research labs, to fighting rings, to anyone who pays. My blood ran cold. That's insane. And illegal. Very illegal. And very profitable. Rick Stevens isn't just involved, he's one of the ringleaders. Him and his brother. His brother? My landlord? She nodded grimly. The whole operation runs through properties they own. Including your apartment complex. That's why the dumpsters, I realized aloud. I found Max in the dumpster behind my building. They dispose of the rejects there sometimes. Puppies too small for fighting, too sickly for labs. I felt sick. We need to go to the police. Sarah's eyes widened with fear. We can't. They have people in the department. That's how they've stayed under the radar so long. Then what do we do? I have evidence. Photos, videos, financial records. But I can't be connected to it. She pulled out a USB drive. Everything's on here. But you need to be careful who you trust with it. As she handed it to me, headlights suddenly illuminated the path. A car was approaching, driving right across the park grass. They followed me, Sarah gasped. Run! I didn't need to be told twice. I pocketed the USB drive and sprinted in the opposite direction, hearing car doors slam behind me. That night marked the real beginning of my nightmare. Not just for trying to save a dumpster puppy, but for accidentally stumbling into something much, much bigger. I made it home, breathless and terrified. Olivia was waiting up, pacing. What happened? She demanded as I locked the door behind me. I told her everything about Sarah, the USB drive, the car chasing us through the park. We need to leave, Olivia said immediately. Pack essentials only. Leave? We can't just. Mike, these people know where we live. They're clearly dangerous. And now you have evidence against them. She was right. I nodded, heading to our bedroom to pack while Olivia gathered Max's new supplies. My phone rang, unknown number again. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello? You should have minded your own business, Rick's voice said coldly. Now, I want that USB drive. I don't know what you're talking about, I lied. Sarah already told us she gave it to you. Before her unfortunate accident. My blood froze. What did you do to her? The same thing that's going to happen to you if you don't bring me that drive in the next hour. And don't even think about making copies. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, realizing how quickly this had escalated from finding a puppy to having my life threatened. We need to go now, I told Olivia, shoving clothes into a backpack. What about the evidence? Shouldn't we take it to someone? I hesitated. Rick said they have people in the police department. We don't know who to trust. What about the media then? Olivia suggested, scooping up Max's anonymous tip to a news station? That seems safer. We could drop it off and disappear until the story broke. We were almost finished packing when we heard it, the sound of our front door being forced open. Olivia grabbed Max and we ran to the fire escape. As we climbed down, I heard heavy footsteps entering our apartment above. We made it to my car just as two men emerged from the building's front entrance. I gunned the engine, tires squealing as we sped away. Where are we going? Olivia asked, clutching Max to her chest in the passenger seat. My brother's cabin, I decided. It's off-grid, no one knows about it. We'll be safe there until we figure out our next move. At least, that's what I thought. The cabin was exactly as remote as I remembered. Located 2 hours outside the city, down dirt roads and hidden among dense trees, it was the perfect hiding place. Or so I believed. We arrived just before dawn, exhausted and on edge. We should be safe here, I said, unlocking the door. The cabin was basic one-bedroom, small kitchen, living area with a wood stove. No internet, spotty cell service at best. Olivia set Max down, who immediately began exploring his new surroundings. I'll check the perimeter, I said, stepping back outside. That's when I noticed the fresh tire tracks in the mud near the shed. My brother hadn't been here in months. Someone had been watching the cabin. I hurried back inside. We need to leave. Now. What? We just got here. Olivia protested. Someone's been here recently. The place is being watched. Just then, Max started barking frantically at the window. Headlights appeared through the trees, moving toward the cabin. Back door, I whispered, grabbing our bags while Olivia scooped up Max. We slipped out the rear entrance into the woods just as vehicles pulled up to the cabin. How did they find us? Olivia whispered as we crouched in the underbrush. I pulled out my phone, realization dawning. GPS. They must have put a tracker on my car. Through the trees, we could see men with flashlights searching the cabin. It wouldn't be long before they started looking in the woods. There's an old hunting shelter about a mile from here, I whispered. We can hide there until daylight. Carrying Max, who thankfully seemed to understand the need for quiet, we moved deeper into the forest. The night was our cover, but also our enemy. Every step risked snapping branches or stumbling over unseen obstacles. Several times we froze at the sound of voices or flashlights in the distance. We reached the hunting shelter just as rain began to fall, a small, dilapidated structure that smelled of mold and animal droppings, but it was shelter. "What's the plan now?" Olivia asked, her voice tight with fear. I pulled out the USB drive, turning it over in my hands. "We need to get this to someone who can help. Someone outside the local police. FBI," she suggested. "That could work. But first we need to get back to civilization without being caught." I checked my phone, no signal, as expected. We were truly cut off. "We'll rest here for a few hours," I decided. "Then head east toward the highway. We can hitchhike if necessary." Olivia nodded, curling up with Max for warmth. "All this because you rescued a puppy," she said, with a mix of disbelief and exhaustion. "I was just trying to do the right thing," I said quietly. "Sometimes the right thing is more complicated than we think," she replied, closing her eyes. I stayed awake, keeping watch, wondering how my simple act of kindness had spiraled so catastrophically out of control. Dawn broke with the sound of helicopters. "They're really pulling out all the stops to find us," I whispered, peering through a crack in the shelter wall. "These guys must have serious connections." We waited until the helicopter passed, then continued our trek toward the highway, staying under the tree canopy as much as possible. Max, despite everything, seemed to be enjoying the adventure, tail wagging as he trotted alongside us. "At least someone's having fun," Olivia commented dryly. We had been walking for maybe an hour when Max suddenly stopped, hackles raised, a low growl emerging from his throat. "What is it, boy?" I whispered, scanning our surroundings. That's when we heard the voices, and they were close. "This way," I urged, pulling Olivia behind a fallen tree just as two men came into view, maybe 50 feet away. "The boss said they couldn't have gotten far," one was saying. "The girls got the dog with them. Why does he care so much about one stupid USB drive?" "It's not just the drive. It's the principle. No one threatens the operation." They moved past us, continuing deeper into the woods. We waited several minutes before moving again, now heading perpendicular to their path. "These people are insane," Olivia whispered. "All this for some pet trafficking ring?" I had been thinking the same thing. Maybe there's more to it than animals. Maybe the animal trafficking is just one part of a bigger operation. The highway came into view through the trees, a ribbon of asphalt promising escape. But between us and freedom was an open field with no cover. "We'll have to make a run for it," I said. "On 3. 1, 2. Suddenly, Max bolted, darting across the field toward the road. "Max!" Olivia called out, instinctively running after him. I had no choice but to follow, all stealth abandoned as we sprinted across the exposed ground. A shout from the treeline confirmed our worst fears: we'd been spotted. We ran faster, Olivia ahead of me, chasing after Max, who was heading straight for the highway where cars zoomed by at 70 miles per hour. "Max, stop!" I yelled, hearing the men crashing through the underbrush behind us. Everything happened in terrible slow motion. Max reached the shoulder of the highway. Olivia lunged for him. A truck appeared around the bend. I screamed, watching as Olivia scooped Max up just in time, rolling away from the oncoming truck and right into the path of our pursuers who had emerged from the woods. Time seemed to freeze as I stood there, halfway across the field, watching one of the men grab Olivia while the other wrestled Max from her arms. Then, like a miracle, a police cruiser appeared on the highway, lights flashing as it pulled onto the shoulder. The men released Olivia immediately, backing away as the officer stepped out of his vehicle. "Everything okay here?" the officer called out. I sprinted the rest of the way across the field. "Officer! We need help!" The men were already retreating toward the woods. "Those men were chasing us," I explained breathlessly as I reached Olivia, who was clutching Max tightly. The officer looked skeptical. "Why were they chasing you?" I made a split-second decision. Because of this, I said, pulling out the USB drive. It has evidence of an animal trafficking ring operating out of Happy Tail's shelter. They've been threatening us since I found out. The officer's expression changed, becoming unreadable. Happy Tails, huh? Better come with me. We'll sort this out at the station. Relief washed over me as he led us to his cruiser. Finally, someone was going to help. Or so I thought. The ride to the police station was quiet. Too quiet. The officer Williams, according to his nameplate, hadn't asked any of the questions I'd expected. Which station are we going to? Olivia asked, breaking the silence. County Sheriff's Office, Officer Williams replied curtly. I frowned. We were heading away from town, not toward it. A terrible suspicion began forming in my mind. Actually, officer, maybe we should go to the state police instead. This might be a bigger case than local jurisdiction. William's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. Cold. Calculating. Don't worry. We'll get your statement sorted out. My stomach dropped. Olivia squeezed my hand, her eyes wide with the same realization. We were in the wrong police car. I subtly checked the doors, child locks engaged. We were trapped. So, where exactly is this sheriff's office? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Not far now, Williams replied, turning onto a dirt road that definitely wasn't leading to any official building. After about half a mile, a warehouse came into view. Several vehicles were parked outside, including the ones that had been at the cabin. This doesn't look like a sheriff's office, Olivia said, her voice trembling slightly. Williams didn't bother responding as he parked and turned off the engine. Out, he ordered, opening our door from the outside. With no choice, we stepped out, Olivia still holding Max, who had gone suspiciously quiet, as if sensing the danger. We were led into the warehouse, where a familiar face was waiting, Rick Stevens, looking smug and dangerous. I told you to bring me the drive, he said calmly. Not to run. How did you find us? I asked. Rick smiled coldly. Your car has low jack. Standard feature in most new models. Quite useful. I mentally kicked myself for not thinking of that. Now, Rick continued, the USB drive, please. I handed it over, seeing no alternative. Rick passed it to a man at a computer, who plugged it in and began checking the contents. Looks like it's all here, boss, the man confirmed. Rick nodded, then turned back to us. Now for the problem of what to do with you two. You have what you want, I said quickly. Just let us go. We won't say anything. Rick laughed. You blackmailed me, exposed our operation, led us on a chase through the woods, and you expect me to just let you walk away? We're not the only ones who know, Olivia bluffed. We made copies. Nice try, Rick said, unimpressed. But Sarah didn't have time to make copies, and you haven't had access to computers since you ran. He was right, but I wasn't ready to give up. What about the dog? Rick raised an eyebrow. What about it? He's why this all started. Just let us walk away with Max, and you'll never hear from us again. Rick seemed amused. That mutt? He was trash. Literally. Too runty for the fighting rings, too weak for the labs. Not even worth processing. Max growled, as if understanding the insult. But now, Rick continued, he's going to be useful after all. When they find your bodies in the woods, mauled by what appears to be a dog attack gone wrong, well, these things happen to irresponsible pet owners. I felt sick. This was their plan, to kill us and make it look like Max had attacked us. Officer Williams will be the responding officer, of course, Rick added. Very tragic scene. He'll make sure the investigation is closed quickly. As Rick spoke, I noticed something, a small red light blinking on the computer where they'd plugged in the USB drive. That's not going to work, I said, trying to buy time while I figured out what was happening. Rick scoffed. And why's that? Because. I was interrupted by the sound of sirens outside. Many sirens. Rick's face transformed from smug to panicked in an instant. What the hell? The computer tech looked up, terrified. Boss, this drive, it's transmitting our location. Understanding dawned on me. Sarah hadn't just put evidence on that drive. She'd created a beacon that would activate when plugged in. FBI. Hands where we can see them. The shout came as doors burst open and armed agents flooded the warehouse. What followed was chaos, people running, shouting, the flash of weapons being drawn. I grabbed Olivia and Max, pulling them down behind a crate as gunfire erupted. When it was over, Rick, Williams, and their associates were in custody, and we were being escorted out by actual federal agents. How did you find us? I asked the agent in charge. Anonymous tip led us to investigate Happy Tales last week, she explained. We'd been monitoring communications. When Sarah Jennings inserted that tracking software on the USB and reported it stolen, we've been following the signal, waiting for them to plug it in somewhere significant. Let us write to their main distribution center. Sarah's alive? I asked, relieved. In protective custody, the agent confirmed. She's been helping us build the case for months. As we stepped outside into the daylight, I held Max close, overwhelmed by how a simple act of rescuing a puppy had uncovered a criminal enterprise, nearly gotten us killed, and ultimately led to its downfall. 3 months later, life had settled into a new normal. I'd found a better job at a company that actually allowed pets in the office. Max came to work with me every day, now properly trained and adored by my colleagues. Olivia and I had moved to a new apartment, one with a pet-friendly policy and no criminal landlords. The FBI had dismantled the entire operation, which turned out to be more extensive than even Sarah had known. Animal trafficking was just one part of a network that included drug distribution and money laundering. Rick, his brother, and Officer Williams were facing decades in prison. Several other police officers had been arrested for corruption. Sarah had come out of protective custody and occasionally joined us for dinner, always bringing treats for Max, who she credited with bringing down the entire operation. If you hadn't found him that morning, she'd say, who knows how long they would have kept going. One evening, as Olivia and I walked Max through our new neighborhood park, I reflected on everything that had happened. Do you regret it? Olivia asked suddenly. Stopping to help Max that day? I looked down at the happy, healthy dog trotting alongside us, then at Olivia, the woman who had stood by me through all the insanity, despite her initial reservations. I'd be lying if I said I never questioned it during those moments when we were running for our lives, I admitted. But no, I don't regret it. Sometimes doing the right thing comes with unexpected consequences. And sometimes those consequences end up being exactly what needed to happen, she added, squeezing my hand. Max barked happily, as if in agreement. I had set out to save a puppy and accidentally taken down a criminal enterprise. My good deed had turned into a disaster before becoming something else entirely, a reminder that the road to both hell and redemption is often paved with the same intentions. I still believe karma has my back. It just has a really strange way of showing it sometimes. The end.